Hi everyone, my name's Danelle and I'm a graduate student here at Cedar Crest College, and I'm going to talk to you today about a technology that the institution that I currently work in adapted, and that's called Masimo technology, and we currently use the Radius 7 technology system, but we'll go into detail a little bit in a couple minutes. So the clinical setting is St. Luke's University Health Network. They have multiple campuses throughout the region, as well as a campus in New Jersey. The Masimo device is currently utilized at the St. Luke's campus in Fountain Hill, Pennsylvania, and the St. Luke's campus in Allentown, Pennsylvania. It originally began in the Fountain Hill campus and now is transitioning into Allentown. The device is utilized by majority being the nursing staff, but other clinicians such as therapists and respiratory, like physical respiratory therapy, and also the PCAs utilize this Masimo system throughout the network. So because St. Luke's University Hospital is a teaching network designed providing quality care to individuals in many different geographical locations throughout the region and in New Jersey, they're a prime location to start with new technology in the Fountain Hill. So that's why this started there. The device is utilized by the nursing staff. It's called the Masimo Radius 7, which I spoke about earlier, and it's utilized by the nursing staff within the St. Luke's network to help when there's decreased staff and increased patient ratios. So St. Luke's University Health Network is a very large network with multiple hospitals, and it's continuing to grow throughout the years and still growing. There's new campuses coming up all over the region, mostly up north right now. But they have thousands of healthcare clinicians within the St. Luke's Fountain Hill and the St. Luke's Allentown campus that are starting to use this Masimo technology. And like I said earlier, it's a great technology not just for the nursing staff, but also for the respiratory staff and the techs and the patient care technicians and the therapy staff. The Masimo technology is useful in all different areas of the hospital, but right now it's being used by the nursing personnel within the medical surgical units, and then it's going to slowly transition to multiple different units throughout the hospitals. But at St. Luke's in Bethlehem, or in Fountain Hill, which is Bethlehem, PA, there is almost all of the medical surgical units, which there's quite a few in the hospital there, have the Masimo system. So I'm going to talk a little bit right now about the Masimo technology. The technology that the clinical site uses, like I've said before, is the Radius 7. The Radius 7 is pictured here on this slide, and it kind of looks like that. The Radius 7 monitors the patient's heart rate and the patient's pulse ox. So it's a great tool to be used, especially for those patients that aren't on a cardiac monitor, or the post-op patients that just came back and have had a lot of sedation. It's a great tool for the nurses that have a larger nurse-patient ratio because of lack of staffing or anything that would cause that, and also because the patient acuity keeps increasing. This Masimo really helps with that. So the Radius 7 has a battery life of up to 6 hours, and it also has a backup device. So the little part that is pictured there with the numbers on it, that goes on the patient's arm, and that can last up to 6 hours. And then there's the backup device that's attached to the wall, which is that black thing there is attached to the wall, and there's another backup device in there. So you'll always have the availability to be monitoring your patients at all times. So that's a great thing. The monitor in the there's also so this monitor in the room is a great tool because the monitor in the room allows for the nurse to take the blood pressure. It allows they also have a temperature reader. You can get the patient's temperature on there. It also while you're sitting in the room, you can see your patient's heart rate and your patient's pulse ox. And then, as you can see on the little um, thing that goes on the patient's arm there, the patient and any staff that's walking the patient or not with the patient in their room is able to see the patient's oxygenation level and heart rate. So if you're a little bit away from the radius where there's like a radius that will the monitor in the room will read, you can still read the patient's heart rate and the patient's pulse ox while you're walking them. So that's a great tool for any physical therapists walking the patients, for any respiratory therapists that are doing walking pulse oxygenation levels. It's a great thing for the nursing staff that continues to walk the patients. It's a great tool. The nurse that's assigned to a patient has a pager that they carry with them. So this pager has all the nurses' patients assigned to it. And then the nurse carries this pager around in her pocket. And if there's any abnormal rhythm or any abnormal numbers, or if the pulse ox drops or the blood pressure is too high or too low when it's taken, it will alert the nurse through this pager. There not only is there this the base station in the patient's room, there's also a remote station in the nurse's station that allows for the nursing staff to see all the patients, and also the charge nurse is able to monitor the patients as well. So some of the vendors that are responsible for bringing this system into St. Luke's University Health Network is Deb Bubba. She is the hospital representative for the Masimo system, and Steve Monsey. He is the account manager who is responsible for instilling Masimo in the St. Luke's Health Network. So some interviews were conducted with staff. They were conducted with nursing personnel and a manager of a medical surgical unit within the St. Luke's Health Network in Fountain Hill. Both the nursing personnel and the manager were both based in Fountain Hill. The reason that their names aren't included is for confidentiality purposes. But another interview, so these two individuals were chosen because they both have direct interactions with the technology system, as well as the manager is also responsible for organizing and the transition of the system being introduced into the unit. So the nurse interview that was conducted, some of the main thoughts that the nurse gave me was that the nurse feels as though the Masimo technology is generally an asset to her everyday activity. The nurse felt more confident with her patient care. She was more confident in case there was any things that could have been missed. And on medical surgical units, you get surgery patients that come back post-op that their blood pressures might be a little lower, or they're on frequent vital signs. All of these things with the Masimo is transferred automatically into the system for the nurse to verify. So the nurse is able to see the up-to-date vital signs of her patient without having to go in the room and physically take them. So not only does it save time, it also gives the nurse a peace of mind that she can be in another patient's room, but just with a click over on the electronic health record, peek and just make sure that her patient is stable at this time. The main reason that she likes it is because it continuously monitors her patient's heart rate and pulse ox. She mentioned to me that there was more than one occasion that a patient was not cardiac monitored, but all of a sudden developed an irregular heart rhythm where their heart beat really fast and they went into an irregular heart rhythm. Well, they were able to do an EKG based on the reading from the Masimo and then treat the patient for that reason. So the Masimo was an asset to her and her patient, and the quality of care that was able to be given to the patient. Some negative impacts that the nurse Well, the nurse also mentioned that it's easy, that the Masimo was easy to learn and there was helpful resources for her if there was any questions. But a negative impact that the Masimo had on her that she discussed with me was that it could create a little bit of alarm fatigue and increase nighttime wakefulness for her patients. The nurse expressed to me that she carries this pager around, but she also has a phone in her pocket that alarms with abnormal heart rhythms on patients with telemetry monitors. And then this pager is constantly alarming in her pocket for her 6 patients that maybe walked too far away from the thing or took it off their finger or have their heart rate dropped a little bit. So she did express that carrying this extra alarm can cause a little bit of alarm fatigue and keep her patients awake because those things do alarm in the hospital rooms. So during the manager interview, the manager expressed to me that her role was to assist in the rollout of this new technology, and she was responsible for being a resource to the staff and knowing where to find the answers if she didn't know the questions, and kind of like talking about and teaching about it before it actually comes out into play. The nurse manager was a resource for the staff in giving the numbers for the technical issues and also to be there as a representative for the hospital for change. So managers are responsible for assisting with change, which we all know some people have trouble with change, and it's always difficult. So the nurse manager is a resource. The nurse manager is there and learned the system as it was before it rolled out to her staff, so that she could be a resource and also so that she could be excited about it and have her staff be excited about it before it actually rolled out. Some leadership support systems that are in place at St. Luke's to help bring the Masimo systems in was that when the Masimo systems were first rolled out onto each of the floor, there was a Masimo representative on call at all times. There was also So leadership made sure that not only were they informed and educated on it, but they knew how to get in touch with the people that needed to support their staff. They also provided educational support for the Masimo system to the staff. So it was important for the leadership to support the staff in this decision-making process and the educational process. Some areas that the leadership was lacking during the rollout was like the continued education of the new technologies. So the rollout at St. Luke's of the Masimo system was kind of a slow process. They started on one floor. The one floor had it for a period of time, and then they slowly went onto each floor. Because there's so many floors within the network, by the time it was moved down a few floors, the first floor technology was behind the bottom floors. So leadership kind of lacked in continuing to educate personnel on the changes that went through with the Masimo systems, and also not updating each of the floors with the same system so that each floor was the same. At St. Luke's, a lot of people float between floors, and patients go between floors. So it's important to continue the education about the new technology that keeps coming up with the Masimo system. Some advantages include those who utilize the Masimo system at St. Luke's value its purpose and agree that it is a benefit to the organization. It is there if there's emergencies to continually take the blood pressure if needed. It's there to help prevent codes from happening because you can escalate care by being aware that their pulse ox is dropping, that their heart rate's dropping before it gets too low. There is some data that St. Luke's has done that shows that the Masimo system has decreased the amount of codes that have occurred within the hospital, because nurses are able to see that their patients are getting sicker and to escalate care before it gets too late. So vital signs are immediately available in the chart as well in the electronic medical record, just with the click of a button. So like I said before, the Masimo system is very good with that. Some disadvantages, like I mentioned before, are alarm fatigue, causing the more patients to be discomfort at times, loss of sleep because of the secondary alarms. So you have support from the Masimo representative at all times and support from coworkers who are familiar with the program. I recommend that the Masimo system is continued throughout the entire network, and nursing staff and managers continue to be supported by the Masimo community. Thank you for watching my presentation. If you have any questions, my email is listed below.